Welcome friends, welcome monobrow Jesus to Sunday Cinematic Service, where every Sunday we take a trawl through the cinematic landscape of faith-based cinema. This year, the first one we've recorded in the year 2019, year of our Lord.
The year of our Lord 2019, yeah.
Yeah, we decided to, for a change, try and watch a critically acclaimed film rather than a awful piece of Christian agit pop. And we decided on the Gospel according to Matthew by Piero Pasolini. Probably murdering that pronunciation of it. But yeah, it's a 1964 Italian film. It follows the story of Jesus Christ from the Gospel of St. Matthew. Surprisingly,
yes.
It's according to Matthew. And it follows him from his birth, so the Nativity, all the way to his crucifixion and resurrection. Well, spoiler alert for anyone who doesn't know.
Spoilers, yeah.
The story of Jesus. It's done in a sort of neo-realist style. All the actors are non-professionals, some of which show, some of which I think are better than others. There's a lot of close-ups in the film. It's black and white. It's a couple hours long, and it's surprisingly for Pasolini, who was a homosexual atheist Marxist, it's a very reverent take on the life of Jesus Christ. Yeah, what did you think of the Gospel according to Matthew, Chris?
Well, the Gospel according to St. Matthew is a very well-made film.
Yep.
It's very interesting, but at the same time I found it very eminently dull.
Yeah, it's very pious.
It's very pious. I would technically call it a good film.
Yeah.
There's some great shots, some great imagery, lots of kind of as you say, very pious is my big problem with it.
Yeah.
There's not really anything much to it. I was expecting a bit more from the whole perspective of who the director was, who Pasolini was, but instead, yeah, it is very reverent, which surprised me. It shocked me at how cut and dry the film was.
Yeah.
It's technically a good film that I can respect and appreciate, but I found to be quite dull.
Well, my main problem with the film is that, you know, what's the first rule of filmmaking? It's supposed to be show, don't tell.
Show, don't tell, yeah.
And what does he have? He has bloody 10-minute long scenes where it's just different monologues that Jesus is giving, sort of cut together. So a sort of trope of the film will be that Jesus is walking around, giving a monologue, giving, like, you know, some of his sermons, talking about, you know, various things that he believes, like, you know, giving and things like that. Most people probably don't need to be reiterated of what Jesus' teachings were. But, yeah, and then it'll cut in, you know, like, it'll be like a line from one, a line from another, and it'll cut like that. So it's not too just him giving one monologue. It's usually several ones edited together with sort of him in centre frame. But, yeah, like, the amount of times where you're just listening to him speak over and over again, like, that seems to be the sort of rhythm the film is going at.
Yeah.
My main disappointment is you never get to get a sense of what the sort of surroundings are around him. You know, like, I thought it would be, you know, like we get to see like the sort of lives that the followers of him were living, sort of the desperate situation they're in, and get an understanding of why people were brought to Jesus. And instead, it relies a lot on your knowledge of this is Jesus. He's an icon. Hear his words, kind of thing.
Yeah, like it's very straight. It's just there's not a lot of invention to the way it's kind of presented.
Yeah.
I mean, probably we should talk a bit about Pasolini.
Yeah.
Because there is a bit of an extensive background to this.
Okay.
Which I've discovered. So apparently, Pasolini was involved in the making of a controversial omnibus film called Roga Pag.
Which is on Master of Cinema.
Yes. It led to controversy and a jail sentence.
Yeah.
For alleged blasphemy and obscene content. But apparently the impetus for this film, The Gospel according to St. Matthew, took place in '62. Pasolini had accepted an invitation from Pope John the 23rd, who's credited in the film.
My favourite Pope, yeah.
An invitation.
Big fan.
Yeah. It was an invitation for a dialogue with non-Catholic artists. So he ended up visiting the Pope in the town of Assisi to attend a seminar, a Franciscan monastery there. So apparently the papal visit caused traffic jams in the town, leaving Pasolini confined to his hotel room, where there he discovered a copy of the New Testament. So Pasolini read all 4 Gospels straight through, and he claimed that adapting a film from one of them threw in the shade of all the other ideas I had in my head. So what kind of stands out with this particular version is, historically, unlike previous cinematic depictions of Jesus' life, Pasolini's film did not embellish biblical account with any literary or dramatic inventions, nor does it appear as an amalgamation of the 4 Gospels. It is very specifically just based on one. He said when he chose Matthew's Gospel, because he decided that John's was too mystical, Mark's was too vulgar, and Luke's was too sentimental. So he settled on Matthew, presumably because Matthew probably told it straight.
Yeah. As you say, it's a very, like, you know, there are still sort of mystical elements to Jesus as a figure. Like, he does walk on water at one point, and he does the whole loaves thing, and he cures the guy of his illness as well.
Yeah, leprosy. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it is a very straight, you know, like, these are his teachings, these are his words, like, yeah.
So Pasolini had a reputation as being an atheist, a homosexual, and a Marxist.
Yeah.
So people were genuinely surprised when the film came out, and it was so straight, I guess. Pasolini was asked why this was, and he said, if you know that I am an unbeliever, then you know me better than I do myself. I may be an unbeliever, but I am an unbeliever who has a nostalgia for a belief. Therefore, he sets his criticism against a backdrop of sheer religious concern for the role assumed by the church organisation for centuries. So, you know, he's basically, I think his intention was to project issues from the present day and what we claim to be the South Italy into the story of Christ.
Yeah.
Quite how successful this is, I'm not too sure, because it just tells it straight.
The problem in all is that all you ever get is sort of Christ. It's, you know, it's the Christ show here. There's no sort of social background to what's happening or anything. Yeah. So what are you supposed to interpret than this, other than, you know, Jesus was a guy who, you know, these are his teachings. You can follow them or not, really. Like,
yeah, basically, yeah.
I could understand the impetus behind that if you portrayed sort of like the poverty of the time, the sort of repression of the church. You know, made something like that, then people go, oh, I suffer from repression or stuff like that. I suffer from oppression. And then, yeah, that would be a good sort of, you know, like, anyone who could relate to that could be then like, oh, Jesus is the person for me, standing up for, you know, these figures there. But just focusing on Jesus so much, it almost assumes the style of a sort of standard biopic.
Yeah. So there's a pretty long explanation from Pasolini here, which...
Yeah.
Although it could be interesting to kind of launch kind of where we're going to go from here. So
yeah, sounds good.
He says, along with this method of reconstruction by analogy, we find the idea of myth and epics. So in narrating the history of Christ, I did not reconstruct Christ such as he actually was. If I had reconstructed Christ's history as it actually was, I would not have made a religious film, since I'm not a believer. I do not think Christ was God's son. I would have made a positive or Marxist reconstruction, if any, so at the best of cases, a life of one of the 5,000 or 6,000 saints preaching at that moment in Palestine. However, I do not want to do that. I am interested in profanations. That is just a fashion I loathe. It is petit bourgeois. I want to consecrate things again, because that is possible. I want to re-mythologise them. I do not want to reconstruct the life of Jesus as it really was. I wanted to make the history of Christ 2,000 years of Christian version on, since it is the 2,000 years of Christian history that has mythologised the biography, one that as such would have been virtually insignificant otherwise. My film is the life of Christ after 2,000 years of stories on the life of Christ. That is what I had in mind. So, okay, yeah, so basically saying he's not trying to get to the real historical Christ, but kind of, yeah, people's idea of
what Christ was,
and how it's been built up over the last 2,000 years.
Yeah. See, my problem with that is, why hire non-actors to play him then?
Yeah.
It's not a very iconic performance, the main guy. If he's supposed to be playing sort of a mytholized Jesus, why is it done in a neo-realistic style? It seems like the style is against what he's trying to do, if that's the case.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Like, obviously, you know, like with a lot of the Italian neo-realism films from this period, you know, it's kind of the idea is that it's kind of like rough and ready, and, you know, if you think of a film like Rome Open City...
Yeah, The Bicycle Thief.
Yeah. Anything like that, where it is cast in a very realistic light, and I don't think that necessarily... If you're telling a mythologised story of Jesus Christ, you kind of want to maybe go for a bit more out there, I guess.
Yeah, just something with a bit more flair and something to it. A more charismatic lead in the role.
Yeah.
Marcello Mastrono, I can't remember his name. He's from
Enrique.
La Dolce Vita.
Yeah.
Like, you know, something like that, where it's, you know, someone charismatic you could believe would lead these people out of their sort of misery. Yeah.
But this guy who plays him, Enrique Irazuqui, was a 19-year-old economics student from Spain and a communist activist.
So it's Pasolini's mate.
That's interesting. So, I'm looking at here because one thing we kind of noticed was how odd like the costuming was.
Yeah.
So this is either a case of this was their intention or a bit of bullshit. I've decided. In addition to the original biblical source, Pasolini used references to 2,000 years of Christian painting and sculptures throughout the film. The look of the characters is also eclectic in some cases, anachronistic, resembling artistic depictions of different eras. The costumes of the Roman soldiers and the Pharisees, for example, are influenced by Renaissance art, whereas Jesus' appearance has been likened to that in Byzantine art, as well as the work of expressionist artist Georges Raoul. Pasolini later described the film as the life of Christ plus 2,000 years of storytelling about the life of Christ. Because that was one thing we noticed straight away. Well, I noticed straight away. It was like historical anachronisms of the looks.
Yeah.
You know, like the costuming was all wrong, and the soldiers didn't really look like they were meant to be. But I suppose if his intention was to tell the story of Jesus Christ after 2,000 years of mythologizing, then I guess there are lots of different artistic interpretations of kind of what that period looked like, you know, from like, you know, over the course of various different time periods.
Yeah.
So
the mixture of styles does work in that way, yeah.
It does, but it's an element of, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely in there, but I don't think it comes out terribly strongly. Instead, you're just left like
these soldiers look cheap.
Soldiers look cheap. Like could they not afford? I assume because, you know, again, it was probably a low budget film made, you know, post World War II Italy. I assume maybe the budget wasn't very high.
Yeah.
They couldn't afford all these historical costumes and all that kind of stuff, and they just made do with what they had.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, if that was his intention, then fair enough. But I don't think it comes out very strongly in the film.
Yeah, definitely not. No, like. And they should have done a mixture of acting styles in that way as well then, rather than have it all this monochrome, just non-actors giving sort of like, just sort of plain limey. I do think the guy playing Jesus starts off incredibly ropey, but sort of grows into it in a way. Like, I think later on he's much stronger performer than he was at the beginning, where he seemed... I wonder if this was shot chronologically, because he does seem to grow into the role more.
Yeah.
I thought at the beginning, I was like, this guy ain't leading anything, but...
Well, when he turned up with his monobrow, I was like... Oh god, this is going to be our Jesus, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you are right. He does definitely grow into it as the film goes on. Like towards the end, he's pretty impassioned, I think, which it kind of suits what they're going for. I suppose one of the weird things for me that I noticed was kind of like how fiery and brimstony this Jesus was.
Oh yeah, like he's killing everyone.
Yeah, he's going nuts. Like, you know, he says, you know, I don't intend to bring a spear, I intend to bring a sword. It's like, oh, he's going to wage war on the non-believers, and he fucks up the temple, which obviously, you know, happens in the Bible, but he felt a lot more fundamentalist.
Yeah.
Than like a nice New Testament. Again, the thing is I ultimately don't know what the differences are between like the different Gospels.
Yeah, I only really know that New Testament, fire and brimstone, Old Testament, fire and brimstone, New Testament, slightly cuddlier.
Yeah, I was more meaning for like, you know,
the actual
Gospels.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of don't really know kind of what the stylistic differences are.
Well, one's apparently too magical, too sentimental.
Yeah. I mean, the Gospel of Matthew is let's have a little read about. So this is the one that Fellini kind of zoned in on as kind of like the one.
Fellini.
Pasolini. So so the divine nature of Jesus was a major issue for the Matthian community, a crucial element separating the early Christians from their Jewish neighbours. While Mark begins with Jesus' baptism and temptations, Matthew goes back to Jesus' origins, showing him as the Son of God from his birth, the fulfillment of Old Testament Messianic prophecies. So the title of the Son of David identifies Jesus as the healing and miracle working Messiah of Israel. So you know, I suppose Matthew's was like the all-encompassing the all-encompassing tale, going right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting, I suppose, and that's kind of the one that you went for. Probably because it probably makes it easy to adapt if you've got like the full story.
Yeah, I do think the flaw of it and all is that I think it should have started with fully grown Jesus. I think it would have been stronger if it didn't start off with the nativity. If he'd started off with Jesus as a fully grown man.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it really adds very much seeing the the beginning of his life. I think it should have just been a straight up, this is him as an adult, like raising stuff, and because if the point of the film is to show him as sort of fighting for social justice and this is the idea of him as a man. I think that we don't need to see the birth. I don't think of it. Yeah, start it off there. You can cut an extra 20 minutes out of it and get more of his monologues in, maybe, and
get some more of it in there. Yeah. Some people were a bit pissed off by the film when it came out. Some Marxist film critics wrote unfavourable reviews. Oswald Stack criticised the film's abject concessions to reactionary ideology. In response to criticism from the left, Pasolini admitted that, in his opinion, there are some horrible moments I am ashamed of. The miracle of the loaves and fishes and Christ walking on water are disgusting pietism. He also said that the film was a reaction against the conformity of Marxism. The mystery of life and death and of suffering, and particularly of religion, is something that Marxists do not want to consider. But these are, and have always been, questions of great importance to human beings. So it's kind of interesting having someone throw himself so deeply into the film, but seemingly not been attached to the subject matter.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting.
He admits that the pietism is I've got issues with Jesus walking on water.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the mythology that's been built.
Yeah.
In the 2,000 years since. So, that's pretty interesting for him to say, really. And for someone to be kind of throwing himself so deeply into a project, but being fairly removed from it. That's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, and also it wouldn't really you can't get rid of all the mythological elements because what about the resurrection? If he resurrects, it's no more ridiculous for him then to be turning water into wine or walking on water.
Exactly. Yeah.
The walking on water scene is filmed relatively. It does look a bit naff.
It's a bit naff.
Like you were saying, it looks like he's just in the actual coast and then
looks like he's gone for a paddle.
Yeah, it's not done particularly well, but I suppose they're not exactly going to use loads. They can't use exactly CGI or anything,
CGI,
or build a bridge underneath the water for him to walk on and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess if you were really engaged in the subject matter, this probably would be an absolutely amazing film.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It almost feels like the, randomly this Christmas, I watched. No, I've got to plug this, by the way. I watched A Christmas Carol, but the Alistair Sim one, the original, well, not the original, but the most famous black and white one.
I've never actually seen that, but
it's very good. It is really good. But it almost feels like the definitive take on the story.
Okay, yeah.
Which is kind of maybe the definitive classic film take. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The classic adaptation is this one.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe to agree slightly that this one's kind of got that because it kind of just tells the story.
Yeah.
Just as is, as the way it's been built up over years. It kind of just tells the story just as is, and maybe having someone who is fairly removed from it kind of helps in his favour a little bit because maybe they're not getting too much into the whole
Yeah, and he is a really skilled filmmaker. It looks absolutely amazing. There are some shots. We watched this on an old DVD, and it still looked good. But we imagine there's a Eureka Blu-ray of this.
Indeed, yeah.
Probably looks absolutely incredible. But yeah, he's always finding new, interesting ways to. I mean, it's always gonna be one of the things that looks absolutely great. When you shoot so much, big desert scenes.
Unless you call it Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, well, the problem with that is it's just wanky, isn't it? It films so much of it that it loses all of its. There's none of the you don't get the impact of it after you've watched someone walk across it for 30 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, it genuinely has an epic scope to it. This film, just through the way it looks.
I think you can definitely tell that they just filmed in one location. It's he leaves Bethlehem.
Yeah.
He goes to Jerusalem, and it looks exactly like Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Where we came from. So that's kind of cool. Let's take a look at what else we've got. Let's take a look.
The music of this film was built up a lot, but we
Yeah.
knew had some. So on like the DVD, and sort of one of the things you always read about is it has a really eclectic soundtrack from different things. We noticed like one modern song, and the rest of it was all sort of classical pieces over the
Yeah.
top. Like, yeah,
Because like the way he described it, it made it sound like there was going to be like pop songs in it, like and then like classical pieces, and that kind of would have made it kind of weird, you know, like having like Bach,
yeah.
you know, next to like Blind Willie Johnson, or Odetta.
I don't know who Odetta is.
I don't know either. I'm just looking at her. The voice of the civil rights movement,
Oh, okay, yeah.
apparently.
Well, that would have been quite clever to try and link it then to the... Again, I think that the interesting stuff in here would be trying to link it to... In the 60s, yeah, you had the civil rights movement and,
Yeah,
you know, all these upright, like the end of, you know, colonial powers fighting back and stuff. That would have been something really interesting and relevant to the story. I think that's just the stuff that's not developed strongly enough in the film.
Apparently, Odetta Holmes influenced key figures of the folk revival at the time, including Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Marvis Staples, and Janis Joplin. Time magazine included her recording of "Take This Hammer" on the list of 100 greatest popular songs, stating that Rosa Parks was her #1 fan, and Martin Luther King Jr. called her the Queen of American folk music.
She's got some high-profile fans then.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we've been off a bit more we can chew than just casually mentioning Odetta.
yeah. Sorry, Odetta.
Whoever Odetta is, and now we know.
Yeah, we'll do some research into Odetta and make a video apologising, and I'm sure that song was very good.
Yeah, so whichever one it was, yeah, I'm sure it was very good.
Yeah. Voted best Christian film of all time by the or was it best Christian film or best in
Best
Jesus film?
Best film on Christ ever made.
They've never seen a little film called Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, it premiered at the 25th Venice International Film Festival. It was screened in competition for the Golden Lion and won the OCIC award. Apparently, a bunch of people actually turned up to boo Pasolini, but cheered him when the film was over.
Yeah.
The film won the grand prize then at the International Catholic Film Office.
Yeah.
And the film was nominated for a UN award at the 21st British Academy of Film Awards. So yeah, we were nominated for a bunch of other stuff, Oscars as well, including art direction, costume design, and score. And randomly, there's also a
costumes for the costumes in this.
Yeah, costume design. Yeah. Believe it or not. And there is a colorized version.
I bet that looks awful.
Yeah, there's a colorized English dubbed version of the film in addition to the original black and white language version. The English dubbed version is significantly shorter, running at about 91 minutes. If they cut
out the opening, good. I don't have as big a problem with the dubbing for something like this, where it wasn't even the recorded sound anyway.
Well, exactly. Yeah, it was just due to the constraints of
the Italian cinema.
The Italian cinema at the time. Yeah, like they just didn't have the sound recording equipment, and yeah, I said before, like, you know, people would come from all over Europe to take part in the making of these films, and would probably be speaking different languages. Yeah. So they'd have to get, you know, Italian person to overdub for the Italian version, and you know, it kind of makes it a bit, I suppose, a bit easier that way. And yeah, I don't mind it. I think just having an understanding of why it is the way it is, helps.
Colorization, though, sounds like a horrendous sin against. Well, it's an awful thing to do to any film. Like, it's not supposed to be done in color. Like,
yeah. Well, the irony is that our man George Lucas rallied against it to make it illegal in the 80s.
It's illegal.
I don't know if it is, but he definitely rallied a bunch of filmmakers in the 80s to basically get films that are colorized to be legal.
That's a good thing that he's done.
Yeah, but then he fucking vandalizes his own films then.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's the only people who thinks that the author has the final say.
Yeah,
in all instances, kind of thing.
So like the whole death of the author thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Would that mean that he would be okay if like someone colorized their own film? Then I'm assuming.
Maybe we'd have to ask Corey.
Yeah. Let's send him George, if you're listening, come on the show to talk about colorization.
Oh dear.
For the film, but God, it was a lot better than some of the films we've covered. This though, like, it's much better than. It's interesting though that, you know, like, Christian films now are seen as, you know, the lowest rung of the ladder. That they're seen as being, you know, like, just ways to get your message across, sort of, you know, usually associated with low production values and stuff like that. It is interesting that, you know, something like this can be so acclaimed and so big at the time. Like, it really does show sort of how like faith-based cinema has just declined so substantially.
Yeah, it's changed, hasn't it? You know, you go from calling your film about Jesus the greatest story ever told, and now you're kind of almost like embarrassed to, like, you know, have like a Jesus story being made. You know, I mean, unless you're like, you know, almost like a hardcore Christian, but
yeah. Well, it's gotten to the point where, yeah, like, a lot of people probably think all Christian films are naff now, because pretty much all the ones made now are naff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, because, you know, they've gone from being the big epic stories, like, you know, you have, like, this, yeah, Ben-Hur stuff. Ben-Hur, was that 60s or 50s?
50s Ben-Hur.
Yeah, but, you know, it's
late
big
50s.
Historical epics, art house films. Ingmar Bergman made a lot of films about, you know, crisis of faith and stuff like that. So you've gone from that to, yeah, now where they're just not made by, like, small studios to make, like, 30 million against a budget of 3, and just to appeal to the, yeah, like, a niche audience of sort of sycophants.
Well, yeah, because, you know, it's changed. It's gone from, like, you know, the all-conquering Catholic Church,
yeah,
you know, like, setting laws about decency and that kind of stuff, and, you know, like, you know, gone are the days of Catholic film protests and, you know, like, that kind of stuff.
Down with this sort of thing.
Yeah. To kind of what we've touched upon before, the whole idea of Christians feeling persecuted.
Oh yeah.
For being Christian, you know, almost like the impression you get, especially in America, is that, you know, they are almost like they are marginalised and you know, made to feel wrong for you know, following the faith. So, you know, we kind of touched upon that before with that creationist one we watched.
A Matter of Faith.
Yeah, Matter of Faith. Yeah.
Your favourite film
my
of
favourite film of 2018.
2018, yeah.
My favourite film of 2018. Yeah. Yeah, so it has, I suppose, in that regard, like, you know, the high art of making a film about Christ is kind of like, you know, fairly non-existent these days.
I don't think a filmmaker or like an art house Pasolini-esque filmmaker would tackle a film that is just a biopic of Jesus. I think that would just be seen as too naff now.
Like, imagine, like, if the director of The Lobster.
Oh yeah, he could do it really funny though.
I'd quite like to see that too.
Like a deadpan Jesus, that'd be really good. Like, you know. I suppose you're going to crucify me now, eh?
It's Colin Farrell as Jesus, yeah.
He would be a good Jesus.
I'm going to turn these loaves and fish, and I'm going to feed 5,000 people.
Look over there. I'm going to walk on that water now.
It is not a pirate trick, but I can turn water into wine.
He's like really neurotic as well.
I can turn water into wine. So sorry for our Irish accents as well. Any listeners in Ireland?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, have we assessed the Gospel of Saint Matthew to a satisfying degree?
Yeah, I feel so. It's probably one that I would recommend to watch. We did sort of lose interest quite about our.
We ended up talking about Star Wars, and Last Jedi, and hot takes and all sorts. But no, but I think it's not. I don't think it's a film to be enjoyed, but as a piece of just like cinematic history
to enjoy.
Yeah, you kind of. I think if you're interested in the status of, I don't even know. It's such a weird creation to the film, but it kind of is a bit of a weird outlier, like in the history of like Italian neo-realist cinema.
Well, it is just fundamentally at odds with, like, you know, they shouldn't have made this in the neo-realist style if they wanted him to also be mythological. Like, it is just such a strange amalgamation of the two ideas going through it.
That seems to be the theme of this like recording sessions that we've done over the last 24 hours or so.
Yeah, we masked an Anonymous, which didn't work because it was at odds with each other.
Slow Train Coming.
Oh yeah, it was overproduced with its apocalyptic tones and stuff.
And then the Gospel according to Saint Matthew,
which also doesn't work for the same reason.
Yeah,
strange. Maybe it's, you know, is it divine intervention that we've hit the same theme so much?
Maybe the Lord has taken notice of our sinful podcast and they want to pass righteous judgment on us. We'll make this recording session a failure.
Yeah.
No, we plenty of interesting stuff to discuss this time.
Yeah, I think they've been, you know, it's been a good one. But yeah, any closing thoughts on the Gospel according to Saint Matthew?
Well, we did end up talking about Caligula, so, you know, I suppose that's one thing.
Oh yeah, when we do Caligula, well, you know, it's first one that we've recorded this year. We can discuss, you know, stuff we've got on the pipeline. Last Temptation of of Christ.
Yeah, the Last Temptation of Christ we'll probably do for as like an Easter episode we mentioned. You can expect more from Sunday Songbook.
Well, yeah, we'll be doing 2 more Bob Dylans.
2 more Bob Dylans plus the recently released bootleg series Volume 13.
Oh yeah, about the Christian trilogy,
about the Christian trilogy. And then we'll take it from there. Then we'll see where the kind of sub-series takes us.
Yeah. There are some. I'd love to do like Nick Cave.
Nick Cave, oh yeah, let's talk about Nick Cave with Christianity. Definitely, so much to go through.
Yeah, you could almost do that album by album.
You really could, yeah. And then for films, yeah, we talked about quite a lot actually, while ignoring the crucifixion of our Lord Jesus Christ and the Gospel according to Saint Matthew. We talked about doing Last Temptation of Christ,
Caligula,
yeah.
I'd like to do a few TV shows now, like South Park, because that's something we want. We've got an axe to grind against that. Like.
We've got a lot to say about South Park these days, yeah.
Well, I think that's good because it's something that we've evolved with as we've gone from fans to, I think it's fair to say, not fans.
Difference.
Are you getting there too?
I'm great indifference towards it now.
Yeah.
I feel like I've outgrown South Park.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I feel.
Family Guy, where you've gone from having a tattoo of Stewie Griffin on your anus to having it lasered off. No, I never liked that, but that's got some Christian stuff we could talk about.
Yeah. I mean,
Simpsons again.
We've done quite a lot of like our housey stuff, so it will be from genuine filmmakers. So it would be good to get back to doing some just sheer trash.
I'd like to do Father Ted actually.
Oh, Father Ted could be interesting. Yeah. Father Ted could be fun.
Yeah. But yeah, got a lot going on, so stay tuned.
Yeah, but more content coming your way in the year of our Lord, 2019.
God bless you.
God bless.